If anyone ever questions my commitment to the bit, please point them to this video, because I just came up with 46 book recommendations for y'all. Hello, my lovely friend, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have sat down with every single song that is currently on the Eras Tour, and I have found a book that I feel, in some way, shape, or form, matches the vibe or something in that song. Now, this video is going to be quick with the details and even quicker with the explanations, because some of these spoil things, and I'm not gonna do you like that. And also because some of these say things about the way that my brain works, and we don't need to go any deeper into that than we already have. If you want specific album-based recommendations, I have done recommendations for Evermore, Speak Now, Midnights, and 1989. I will have those linked down below in the description box. You should definitely go check out the Speak Now one, because we all know Speak Now got done dirty. Hence why I'm here repping her, because someone's got to if Taylor's not gonna. Let's get into it, starting with Lover. For Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince, we are going with Where the Rhythm Takes You by Sarah Das. This is set in Tobago, and it is a retelling of Persuasion. I really appreciate it. I really think that the author did a great job of taking the things that I loved about Persuasion and translating them to a more modern, younger audience. For Cruel Summer, this was a hard one because there are so many books that would have fit this, but I'm going with Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I'm specifically going with this because of the line, "What doesn't kill me makes me want you more." We are following a Gumiho in this one. She is facing certain death while also having to wrestle with her feelings for one of her classmates. For The Man, I have a lot of really strong female main characters that I could have gone with, but I had to go with Jude Duarte from The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. You have probably heard about this many, many times. Just know it is one of the only bully romances that I think actually kind of makes sense, because there's mutual bullying going on, and then they start to like each other and go, oh no. Very political, a little bit of romance, very weird and strange because we are in the world of fairy. For You Need to Calm Down, I went with Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, because everyone knows that Howl needs to calm down. If Taylor Swift existed in this world, our main character would definitely be blasting this song morning, noon, and evening, because she just has the most dramatic employer ever, and she's got problems too. And for Lover, the final selection in this era, we're going with Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This book is a star-crossed love affair between two people who never should have met and simply cannot stay away from each other, even when death is involved. We start the Fearless era with the title track, Fearless, and for that we're going to be doing Once Upon a Caged Prom, also by Kat Cho. This is a sweet contemporary YA about two childhood sweethearts reconnecting in high school in time for prom. For You Belong With Me, I could go no other place than Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. The prologue of this it just fits that song. The track of our main character's love life fits that song. It's amazing. This is about a girl who doesn't think she has powers and then finds out that she does have powers and has to grapple with the change in station that gives her. Also, while dealing with a century-spanning problem that is trying to annihilate both her and her people. For Love Story, we needed yet another star-crossed romance that looks like it's not going to work out, but then, you know, it's a romance, so of course it's going to, and that is The 7-Year Slip. We have a little bit of time travel, we have some exploration of grief, and we have two people who meet at one time and then meet yet again at another time, but this time one of them does not recognize the other, for reasons. Moving into the Red era, we start with one of Taylor's most upbeat and fun songs, and that is 22. This is an unserious song for which I needed a book that was equally unserious, and for that I am doing The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. This, as he so aptly names it in his, it's not a foreword, it's the author's note at the end, this is a pop song in a book. It is delightful. It is fun. No one is taking anything seriously, even though there are very serious things going on. Very tongue-in-cheek, very much a main character that has no idea what he's doing, and it is delightful. Moving on to We Are Never Ever Ever Getting Back Together, I'm going to recommend you Such a Fun Life by Kylie Reed. This is a satire. It's not supposed to seem accurate. However, I have to say, one of our main characters does feel extremely accurate to me, as someone who has moved in those circles quite often. We are following a young black woman and a struggling, affluent white mother who is very girl boss, get things done, and doesn't really seem to understand why her nanny may not want to be her best friend. For I Knew You Were Trouble, I had to recommend one where our male protagonist is trouble in the best way, and that is Blonde Identity by Ally Carter. This is a spy novel with amnesia. She has no idea who she is or who he is, but he kind of maybe knows her sister. And then for All Too Well, the 10-minute version, that one carried with it a lot of weight. I needed to recommend y'all a long series I felt that was going to take you through all of the emotions that this song takes you through. I am not recommending one book. I'm not recommending 5 books. I am recommending 9. I'm recommending an entire series here, and it is the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. Brace yourselves. It seems like it's a fun little sci-fi series at the beginning, and then the authors just systematically break your heart. Good luck. For Speak Now, we have a single song. We have Enchanted. And it may not be apparent why I chose this series or this book for this until you get later on in the series, but there is a moment in this series, I don't know, I just kind of thought of them when I thought of this book, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is a portal fantasy where we have 4 alternate worlds that are all connected by the same city, which is the city of London, and we are following Kel, who is able to travel through those worlds, and Lila Bard, who gets dragged into Kel's troubles when their paths cross. Moving on to Reputation. This one is a book that you are not ready for the ending, but it does have some dreams involved, and that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is about a really nerdy boy who is obsessed with a specific mythical city, and then he finds out that that city is not so mythical, and he goes there and he meets a girl. There are so many more complex themes in this book, but I just like, you know me, the romance is why I'm doing it. For Delicate, I wanted to find a book with a couple that has a very will they, won't we, a lot of things that were unspoken, and as it turns out, this book has 2 couples that are very much that way, and it's A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This is a Celtic-inspired fantasy about a boy going back home because his community needs him, and the girl that tormented him, and he also turns out tormented a little bit too. So they have to make peace with that while also trying to do what's best for the community that they grew up. Or Don't Blame Me. I feel like our male lead in this book would have had that song on repeat during the events of this novel, and that is The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. In this, we have a young girl who is fighting immigration because they are trying to send her and her family back, and she meets a boy who believes that you can fall in love in 24 hours, and she has 24 hours, so he's like, let me prove it to you, and then proceeds to prove it to her. For Look What You Made Me Do, I am going to go with Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This is a book about a hockey town and their reaction when it is found out that one of their star players has raped someone, and she is not going to be quiet about it. So just trigger warnings for sexual assault and rape and all kinds of things. I think it was handled very tastefully and very well in a way that really centered the victim, but know going into it that it does get very intense. Moving on to the combined folklore and Evermore era, or the Folkmore era, as we refer to it on Twitter. We start with Cardigan, and I'm going to recommend The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. This is not the first time you will see Susan Dennard on this list. This is about a young girl who her family is exiled, and she feels like crap, and then she starts trying to change that, and there is a boy that helps her change that. He's much better than James, like so much better than James, but it does kind of remind me, their little relationship does kind of remind me of the like main line of Cardigan, when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed you put me on and made me said I was your favorite. Going on to Betty, we have basically the adult version of that, except no one cheated, someone just did something very dumb, said some hurtful things, and is now trying to keep his marriage together because he did not realize that that was the final straw, and that is The Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams. We are following a man who joins a romance book club where men are getting together, reading romance novels, trying to figure out how to please and woo their women. For Champagne Problems, I wanted something messy. I wanted something that had ended in tragedy. We don't know if it's going to stay that way, but something that just, there's a lot going on there. And I'm going to go with The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. There is so much going on here, but we have one brother who is basically the god emperor of the land, although there is a time limit on how long he's going to be that before he goes crazy. And in getting there, he had to defeat and kill his younger brother, which led to a whole bunch of things that just he had to say nah to in order to continue keeping things in check. There's so much I'm not good color theory though. For August, I feel like Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew is a really good comparison to that one. This is a dark Peter Pan-ish retelling. If you like books that are going to rip your heart out and stomp on them on the floor, this is it. This is the one you want. For illicit affairs, especially with the whole Don't Call Me Kid, Don't Call Me Baby thing, I had to go with A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a reimagining of Dracula through the eyes of his first wife. It manages to fully skip all of the actual events of Dracula, but it is a really interesting exploration of what kind of person would be able to do what he has done. For My Tears Ricochet, I had to go with The Shadow Sister by Lily Mead. This is a YA thriller, and we are following a young woman who is dealing with the fact that her sister, who she's not the biggest fan of, has also gone missing, and then she comes back and she comes back wrong. I don't want to tell you exactly what genre of thriller it is because that does spoil things, but you'll kind of get the vibe. It's very creepy, very unnatural, lots of just things that aren't right going on. For Marjorie, the first one I thought of is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This is a vignette-style story, and it is basically the receipts of the end and the reinvention of the world. It is following the world after a deadly virus is found in the Arctic and following the repercussions of that. And it's weird, and it is sad, and there are a lot of little pieces that just all link together. And for Willow, I am going to recommend The Man and the Crocodile by Jordan Ifueko. I probably shouldn't recommend this one because you really do need to read the Ray Barrow duology first, but I read this without finishing it, so it does I can tell you it spoils things, but also, if you're not interested in those, but you might be interested in this, please just read it. Just read it. It's good. It is a retelling of Howl's Moving Castle to some extent. There is magic. There's a mysterious man. We have a main character who is having to deal with the fact that people do not accept her as she is. It is a wonderful, wonderful book. The 1989 era kicks off with arguably the best song on the album, which is Style, and for that I chose a book and a couple that never go out of style, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Do I need to explain myself further? It is a decided dislike to love romance that is mostly, honestly, social commentary on Regency England and a lot of just tongue-in-cheek observations from Miss Austen herself. For Blank Space, I'm going to recommend All Systems Red by Martha Walls. I don't know how to, verbalize the connection my brain made between this song and this, but in both cases we have someone who is pretending to be something that they are not, I guess is what you could say. In this case we have Murderbot, who is pretending to be an augmented human instead of an android meant to, specifically designed to kill people. For Shake It Off, we are going with a book where the main characters, the lesson that they need to learn is to shake more things off, and that is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. We have Spensa in this. She is very angry, takes things way too seriously and very much to heart, and she has to deal with the fact that she has to learn how not to do that so that she can be a proper part of, or a useful part of a team, an effective part of a team. That's the word that I'm looking for. For Wildest Dreams, I went with The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa because you could very much kind of play that at the beginning of this, because that is very much where the relationship starts, where they're like, we're gonna do this thing and then we're not gonna have to see each other again. Guess what happens? Just take a guess. And then for Bad Blood, this may not continue to be applicable. I haven't read book 3 yet. We're getting there, but I'm going to recommend Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I'm specifically recommending Legendborn because of some scenes that happen in book 2, but this is a retelling of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And that is the most that I can tell you, other than that it happens in a North Carolina college, and we have a girl who did not know that this spirit world existed, realizing that the spirit world exists, and not only that, she belongs to this world in some way because she can see these things. It is so much more complicated than that, but my favorite part I cannot tell you because it is a massive spoiler. Moving into the tortured poet department, we are going to start with But Daddy, I Love Him. I'm going to recommend Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is about a young woman who wants a job at a newspaper, and there is a boy that is in her way. At the same time, she's writing mysterious letters that originally she was just writing them to her brother and then shoving them under a door because she didn't know where he was, so she couldn't actually send them to him. And then someone starts writing her back. For So High School, there was no other book that I could recommend other than Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. This is a story about a couple who meets online gaming, and he thinks that she's an 80-year-old woman, and she thinks he is a college student. They are both in their 50s. It is delightful, it is wonderful, it's very slow burn, but still having a lot of fun with this thing. For Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, I had to go with My Heart is a Chainsaw and our lovely protagonist, Jade Daniels. This is a deconstruction, a love letter, a just examination of the thriller genre through our main character's lens. It is an alternating views of her writing essays about the thriller genre and then what's going on in her town of Proof Rock, as it appears a slasher has come to town and she's been preparing for this her entire life. For Downpad, I had to recommend If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio because it's all teenage petulance. This entire book, fully, they are in college, but it is all teenage petulance. It is the most dramatic cast of characters you will ever meet because they are all theater students. And it's a mystery because someone has died, and we are finding out for the first time ever the true story of what happened because the person who was in jail for it has been released after doing his time. And so he's finally like sitting down to tell the proper story of what happened. If you like Shakespeare, this is the book for you. For Fortnite, we're gonna go with Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do, honestly, with the book, the recommendation. I just have feelings about this book and about what Susan does and how she hooked me and how she then took away the thing. And I very much feel like I'm in a Fortnite relationship with that relationship with Susan Dennard. And so I'm recommending this. We are following a world where there are different kinds of magic. Our main character in this book is Safi. She is a truth witch, and she is the last one that people know exists. If there is another one, we do not know about her, and she's gotten caught up in some weird stuff. There's some kidnapping that's happened. There's a boy that she's met that she cannot stand, who I miss. Anyways, we'll read it. Moving on to The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, I have to recommend Renegades. It is not our main character. It's not any of our main characters. This is a ode to the superhero genre. It is a love letter to DC and Marvel, and if you know anything about the X-Men or the Justice League, you're going to be reading this and you're going to be going, oh yeah, this is my place. This is my book. It's so good. There are so many parallels, and you can see so many homages to that genre, and I love it. And then, for I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, and please know that there's like 6 different songs in this set list that I could have used this for. In fact, it probably would have been for The Archer if The Archer still was on the set list, but it's not, I don't care. Honestly, it's fine. But I am going to recommend Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Have you heard me talk about this yet? Have you heard me talk about how much I love this book? We have a main character who is definitely doing it with a broken heart. Only this heart is not broken because of her boyfriend or because of any boy yet. That could be argued later in the series. At this point, her heart is not broken. It is broken because she is the goddaughter of Death and Fortune, who adopted her when she was very small, and then she feels not only do they abandon her in the human world, but they also came to her and were like, hey, you need to choose which one of us you're going to serve. And she's like, I thought I was your kid. I thought you were my parents. Is that not how this works? And so she goes on in trying to find a way to get as far away from them as possible so she does not have to choose between her moms. And also, whilst doing that, she steals the identity of a princess. It is a retelling of The Goose Girl from the servant's point of view. If you were worried that I was going to forget about the acoustic section, I have not. Do not worry. I have 2 books here, one for acoustic guitar, one for acoustic piano. I chose things that are a little bit out of the normal format I think that people usually do. For acoustic guitar, I chose an indie fantasy, Miss Percy's Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons by Quinby Olson. This is a delightful romp through Regency England with a dragon and an older protagonist. Our main character has received an inheritance, and rather than getting money, she got a whole bunch of odds and ends from her uncle, along with a large rock that turns out to be a dragon egg. It is as delightful and fun as we all felt when Taylor mashed up Is It Over Yet with Out of the Woods. You know that feeling? That's the feeling that this series gives me. And then for the piano, which we know she so often does those devastating combinations, I chose a book that is going to break your heart but also put it back together, and that is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. This is a book told in verse about a young girl who immigrates to the United States from Syria because of what's going on there, and then it follows her as she is trying to navigate coming to this country, learning the language, fitting into her middle school, and finding things to help distract her from the knowledge that part of her family is still back home in Syria. All right, we have moved on to the final era, which is the Midnight's era. The era opens with Lavender Haze, and for this, I am going to be recommending The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I am 99.999% sure that this is a retelling of Rebecca in some way. It gave me big Rebecca Crimson Peaks vibes, and we are following a young woman who has gotten herself married so that she can escape a bad situation. However, she has basically gone from the frying pan and into the fire with the situation that she finds at this house, which happens to be haunted. For anti-hero, I have to go with Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. We are following a young woman who gets vilified by the very order that she sought to protect and uphold because they think that she has done a thing. She has released a book that she's not supposed to have released, and so she spends the rest of the book trying to undo what is done while also trying to evade the authorities that want to put her in an institution and call her crazy. For Midnight Rain, I chose a series that's very opposites attract. It starts with Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld. This is an alternate history for World War I, where Franz Ferdinand had a son before he and his wife had a son before he died. We are dealing with his son having to deal with the fallout of his parents being murdered, and we are also dealing with an English airman, only it's a girl who has disguised as a boy so that she could join the English airmen. Also, in this series, we're dealing with like weird Darwinian creatures and mecha kind of machines that they made. For vigilante shit, I want to recommend the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. We are following a woman who has come home to find that her son has been murdered and her daughter has been kidnapped by her son's father. She is hunting him down across the world as the world is falling apart because she's going to get her daughter back. For Bejeweled, I decided to go with The Diviners by Libba Bray just because that very much feels like the attitude of our main character in this series, or one of our main characters. It's an ensemble series set in, I think it's the 1920s, but we start with a main character who can touch things and know things about the person who owned them if they are dead, and she starts using that to solve a mystery and gets drawn into like a further mystery. It's a fantastic series. Falls off a little bit at the end in the last book. There's some pacing issues, but I still loved it. For Mastermind, I'm going to suggest Sleeping Giants for Sylvain Nouvelle because we very much have a character who is kind of a mastermind type character that is pulling all kinds of strings as they are gathering information about the unearthing of these giant metal parts that end up going to a giant metal robot. And for the final song, for the showstopper at the end, you knew we could not get through a recommendations list without this. But for Karma, I'm going to recommend a series with a main character who definitely is the deliverer of some karma, and that is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. We're following Percy Jackson. He is a 12-year-old boy who finds out that his father is Poseidon and the Greek gods are real, and he's having to do that all at the same time that his mother has been turned into a cloud of glittering dust. And also he's being accused of stealing his uncle's lightning bolt, and now he has to prove his innocence. Well, not really the series, but things keep happening and Percy keeps getting blamed for them. And there you have it. That's 46 books that I recommend based on the vibes for each song in the Eras Tour set list. I have other videos recommending books for Taylor Swift songs that you can find here and here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you watch this video and maybe you watch another couple videos and you like the vibes, that subscribe button is right down there. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! Moving on. Don't fall. Thank you.